about this one. There's a reason why the Enchantress has kind of tapered off in favor. Of course, could be effective. Geek Fam does go straight into the Legion Commander. Couple of issues with that. You are picking LC into Oracle,
True.
so it's not going to be easy to get those dual wins. And the disarm's always going to be good from the Oracle or the False Promise. So the key target for that LT will have to be the Oracle, unless the Tusk and Disruptor get to that Oracle first. And you can't duel the Enchantress. You should not duel the Enchantress because, well, that's still painful.
Here we go again. The Lycan comes out. Adroit just seem to love this hero. They really haven't got the same sort of lineup. I don't really know if I'd say the Lycan lineup is quite as strong. This time around, it feels a bit weaker. I don't see anything that really gels with the Lycan.
The only thing I see is really that Enchantress. I guess you can dominate creep early on and kind of build an army there. You have good heals from the Oracle and the Enchantress, although it's more of the Enchantress for like minion heals. That's the only really thing I can see that's working out here for Adroit. I'm surprised they're not going for one of their more traditional game tree kind of drafts. Every single time they reach a game tree, there is that historical tendency for the Magnus PA, the Magnus Troll. They do go for a much more focused approach. It is seemingly a bit less risky, right? You're not putting yourself up to a greedy lineup here. The Enchantress doesn't need too much farm. So if they are going to put Boomy on that, he's just going to have stronger laning presence. That's what they want to maintain here up against what Geek Fam has. They still have that Lycan for early objectives. That can work in their favor as the lockdown from Geek Fam is kind of lacking. You have the Disruptor, so you can call him back into the Static Storm at the very least. But that's basically it. Once that's expended, then you'd kind of be hard-pressed to keep that Lycan in place.
Well, Geek Fam, fourth pick for them now, John. They're going to have a bit of a think about this one. They had to experience the Lycan last game. They didn't enjoy what they saw, and quite frankly, this time around, they don't have as much D push as they did last time around. Whether they even bother focusing on that aspect of the game is a completely different story. You probably have to. It is a Lycan. Geek Fam will take a Terrorblade for themselves, and that is, I believe it was a Raven Classic, wasn't it? Back in the day when Terrorblade was actually good. Now it's back.
Yeah.
And Raven actually, Terrorblade is back, so Raven says, I'll take the Terrorblade. Against the Lycan, however, how do you feel about that? Is that a good pick? Because it does feel like Terrorblade can kind of get run over by this Lycan pickup.
It takes time to go online, this Terrorblade. That's the key thing here. Geek Fam just needs to buy space for Raven to get big enough. Excuse me. The one issue I see as well is that Enchantress can actually rip through Terrorblade just fine. Impetus is no longer an alt, sure. Like it does have a bit of a cooldown, but you can trade favorably with the Terrorblade, whether or not Metamorphosis is up. And you have to think about Metamorphosis as well. It sets the pace for that Terrorblade's timings. So you have to play around that long cooldown. If you are blown up, then it is going to cause issues. Geek Fam doesn't have any sort of saving support. They don't have the Oracle for themselves. So they're not going to be able to sustain that Terrorblade as much. They only really have the Legion Commander for heals right now. That's something that they have to always be conscious about. That here is not very... Yeah, it doesn't have a huge HP pool.
I'm curious as well. Like, we saw Carl last game. Started off pretty well on the Pugner. Ended up dropping off quite a bit at the end. What would you like to see him on this game? Like, they've banned the Queen of Pain, which is what I would have said is probably the best pick he could have gone for. Geek Fam actually go ahead and get rid of the OD, which is fair enough. You have an LC, you have a Terrorblade, you don't want to deal with an OD on the opposing side of things. But what does Carl play against this kind of lineup from Adroit?
Well, they don't really have the best of lockdown. The Spirit Brothers are all there. I'd say the best one in this case would be something like an Ember Spirit to come out if they want to go for that route. They go to Storm instead, which is, again, a high mobility hero, not the best lockdown on Android's side. You can kind of reach into the backline. The Oracle is going to be a very prime target for the Storm. I think #1 target for our Storm Spirit in this game. And Adroit does close out their draft with the Alchemist. Oh boy. Alchemist Oracle.
All right.
We've seen this so many times, Mike.
Yeah.
It's just way too good.
I was wondering. I was looking at Adroit's draft and I was like, no, this isn't right. It feels very empty. It feels a bit bland. I'm like, what's going on here? They've got an Oracle, but with a Lycan? a Lycan of all things, that's what your Oracle combo is going to be. I thought we may see a Husker pop out. That's what I thought. I thought maybe they go for the cheese Husker pick. You've got the Oracle. It wasn't banned. It's the Alchemist. It got nerfed recently. I don't think it matters. The whole map got nerfed. So
yeah, basically.
As far as I'm concerned, Alchemist is still completely broken. With an Oracle to keep him alive through Chemical Rage, and he just passively heals himself up, I don't see the greatest Spirit Vessel carriers on Geek Fam either.
No.
Like, this is really scary.
Probably Tusk.
Adroit could really finish this game quite quickly.
The only real carrier Geek Fam has for like that urn you mentioned or the Spirit Vessel is Zephyr's Tusk, but his farm prioritization is pretty low in the totem pole. So this is definitely something Adroit is playing around. The Alchemist, a lot of people think is like a late game core. It's really a mid game core. It spikes super fast early on if it's not shut down, and then it just takes over. With a Lycan on top of that, these timings from Adroit should be pretty darn good. Geek Fam has to kind of match that pace, but at the same time secure farm for Raven, Ender, Storm. And these heroes require so much farm, like the Storm Spirit and the Terrorblade do require some time to get started up. I'm not sure if Adroit's going to be able to give them that.
I don't
Probably
think they
not.
have the time.
It's just because of the pacing that Adroit's draft has. Like, as long as Mac doesn't fall behind in 10 minutes, that's the key time for the Alk. If he's not bullied out of lane within 10 minutes, then he's just going to go into the jungle after 10, farm up his stacks, come out with a Radiance by 15 at the latest. And Radiance on the Alk, you've got a Lycan who'd probably have his Dominator and level 6 by then, of course. You'd be running around, mounting objectives, fighting very early on. You have all the sustain from an Enchantress and from an Oracle. It's going to be hard for Geek Fam to slow that pace.
I certainly agree. I love the draft from Adroit. I mean, I'd hate to play against it, but as caster, it does look nice. See if they can slow Mac down enough. Huku's apparently already here to say hello. Does take a tier 1 tower hit. We'll leave. I don't see any camps being blocked, but we'll see the Radiant Observer Ward already keeping vision to ensure that the Alk doesn't get ganked from the offlane of Geek Fam.
The battle begins.
And even if you do beat him in lane, like, usually Alchemist isn't the greatest mid laner in the world, but he just goes to the jungle, he clears out some stacks, and the game's over. It's as simple as that.
That's the key thing for Geek Fam. Like, Carl has to win out mid lane so hard, and you have to maintain control in that jungle. We saw a lot of teams where, yes, they win the mid lane matchup. We have actually seen the Storm against the Alk, and the Storm can actually pretty much just win. But if you don't shut down that jungle, that will be the major issue here. Geek Fam has to get that out. With a Tusk, I can see them getting those rotations out fairly easily. So you do have that on a plus for Geek Fam. A Tusk does have great laning presence, can roam around freely, but even if Carl just wins out here, you will have to have Zephyr get that job done.
We'll have a look at the other lanes for a bit, because that mid lane is probably going to be very, very passive. Unless some rotations come in. Raven is going to be up top, of course, on the Terrorblade with Whiteman. Raven, of course, just popped the Metamorphosis and basically just going to freely farm with that. We'll see Boomy come in, and that is actually a fair bit of impetus damage already. Of course, Boomy with that impetus doesn't really care. Some fantastic pure damage coming out from that Enchantress. Bot lane, we do see Natsumi up against Cuckoo. You know, funnily enough, this should actually be an easier lane for Natsumi. Like, last time around, he was having to verse the Underlord. This time around, while the LC is quite annoying, it's not like the Lycan really cares for trying to kill the offlaner. They just want to farm.
Yeah, and LT can kind of punish once you have your Wolf summons with the overwhelming odds. It's not too much more damage. So Lycan's not going to be under too much pressure. You take a look at that positioning from CML as well, just going all the way back, matching Zephyr, keeping him away from lane, which means that Natsumi's not going to be feeling the threat of that Tusk anytime soon.
Definitely not. I wonder though, who'll be stacking for the Alk? I haven't seen CML really going for any stacks yet. Yeah, I mean, it is fairly early to be fair, but do you even bother? Is it necessary for Mac to clear out stacks?
It's a
You think-
big plus.
Oh, Zephyr. Gonna come in. He has shots. He has tag team. Mac should be dead here, though. He does stick charge up. Still trying to run away, but it's not going to be enough. Carl does find the first blood. Zephyr will go down, but it is well worth the death.
Yeah, nice big pickup here for Geek Fam. They are definitely keeping lid on that Alk, so they understand the importance of keeping Mac down. Would like to see a lot more investment as the game goes on, but right now, just killing the Alk is big enough.
Top lane, Bok. Trying to have a go onto Whiteman on this Disruptor. The Bok is falling very low. Raven needed one more hit. Nice body blocks coming out from Boomy. Won't allow it, and Bok does manage to salve up. That Illusion trying to get the salve cancellation, but it's too late. Bok will be fine. So will the Disruptor Whiteman. He'll be fine as well.
Just a bit of back and forth, but you take a look at mid again. Zephyr is back.
But he has no... Tag team's not off cooldown.
just pushing Mac away from lane. He's not getting last hits.
I guess that works, right? If you just stand there, you don't need to do anything. And now Vortex comes in. Zephyr said, hey, I warned you. But CML will be around the Oracle. Mac will be forced to salve up a little bit. Everything goes back to normal. On the brighter side for Mac, I guess, like with Zephyr standing there, he is soaking XP from Carl, which does affect the Storm quite a bit.
Yeah, and those early levels are very important for Carl. So he is going to be kind of split up early on. You could say the same about Mac, because CML is basically just staying here now. You can't leave Mac alone. This is freeing up that bot lane, but as mentioned, Natsumi's perfectly fine 1-on-1 against Cuckoo. So really, it's all about this mid lane. This is where the supports will have to stick, and Zephyr trying to go for rotation does have the shards, but it's harder with CML.
He is level 3. He could go for a snowball. He just hasn't skilled anything yet. And Zephyr, that's going to be a lot of damage with Acid Spray.
Ouch.
CML, he does pick up the kill. That's some very aggressive positioning from a Tusk. CML does make him pay for it.
And they might even find the bounty runes here as well.
Yeah, CML. No, Fortune's End
No.
was a bit too quick, and Carl would at least find his. And back to Cuckoo. Did not get one either. I believe it was actually denied off by the creep of Natsumi. And Cuckoo may actually drop Fortune's End to fly out. He is healing himself and press the attack. It should not be enough, and CML will be on a killing spree on the Oracle now. The 3-1, the way of Adroit. That is very good news if you have an Alchemist draft.
Definitely is, but Mac is under a lot of pressure again. This time, a lot more supports rotating down to get this kill.
Yeah, but a lot more coming in to help. One will cancel Boomy. He'll follow all the way through. But that's the thing with an Alk, John. Like, he suffers a bit of mid lane, gets levels up in Acid Spray and Chemical Rage, then goes jungle. Like, Geek Fam know this, obviously. They just won't leave Mac alone. But ultimately, Mac is eventually going to be able to just go jungle and recover. Although, nice zip in from Carl. It's very, very deep, and Mac doesn't have any help now. And they will find a secondary kill on the Alchemist.
That's definitely what they need. This does allow them to get a little bit of chip damage on that mid-tier one as well. And Boomy actually drops fairly low, although they aren't ready to commit. This is really hurting the pace of Mac. They do have really good wards now from Geek Fam as well to watch that jungle. And Carl is actually clearing out the camps where the Alk would want to be anyway.
That's the idea. Just clear out as many camps as you can near the Alk. Oh, Boomy. Giving free kills away to Carl now. And you want to protect the Alchemist, but not like that. It's not the way to do it. So Mac,
No,
he will rotate into the jungle now, though. He's had enough.
Yeah, they did manage to get the D ward on that vision that Geek Fam has, so the jungle is just a bit more open here. But you still run the risk of rotations in. All this time with supports out of those lanes does mean Raven as well. It's something we didn't talk about. On the Terrorblade is actually farming quite well and finds a kill.
Yeah, very nice. Bok goes down on the Pangali. That makes it a 3-4, much more even game. In fact, Geek Fam is now overtaking in terms of kill score. They also take a 1k net worth lead, which is very nice. And like you said, Raven's freely farming. This is when you look at that last hits board and you see the Storm and Terrorblade at the top, you do get a little bit scared if you are an Adroit fan.
Yeah, they don't need too much farm on their Lycan, but when you're lagging behind like this, you do give a lot for this Terrorblade to play around. Raven is going to be farming into the Yasha, presumably into the Manta style first, unless he does want to go for the SNY, which we've seen a lot of heroes gravitate towards now with this patch change. But the options are there. They aren't threatening this Terrorblade. Raven is actually just left alone up top. So you're losing out farm on Mac. You're letting Raven free farm. Your Lycan is somewhat keeping up in terms of last hits at the very least, but it's not quite there yet, although the Lycan should be online a bit faster. There is some pressure on Natsumi to ensure that these objectives melt early on to buy space for that Alp.
He's trying, but again, you'll see Zephyr rotating on the Tusk, gets a very nice shards already blocking him in, but this time with Chemical Rage, there's a lot less kill potential, and Zephyr, you need to get out of there, or maybe not. Carl will jump in, the Swashbuckle will actually not finish the job. It was a snowball that came out, and in fact, they're going to lose Carl, they're going to lose Zephyr. They were ready for it this time. And glimpse back, it looks like Bok will end up fighting Whiteman on the Disruptor. Natsumi was glimpsed back, but it just doesn't matter. And it's a 3-0 in terms of that team fight. Very nice from Adroit.
It just turns around on a coin flip there. All of a sudden, you aren't killing Mac, Mac's killing you. It took a bit too long for Carl to get in there and back up Zephyr. That does cost him. This will allow Natsumi to start chipping away at that tier 1 up top, and this gives a lot of space towards Mac. He is still fairly far behind. Like, this is not where you want your Alpha to be, but when you give him kills like that, this definitely gives a lot more room for him to breathe.
Well, they go for a duel down a bot lane. They're going to try and get a trade with this tier 1 tower. That's exactly what they're going to do. Start forcing it in. The top lane is still being pushed in by Natsumi, so someone needs to get there and defend. They'll fortify. That should be enough. And you'll see Cuckoo. He'll go in and take that farm for the team. But it's all distraction. The man they need to be looking for right now is within a very safe range, doing exactly what he needs to do. Unfortunately for him, he didn't exactly find as many bounty runes as he would have liked. I believe he only got 1 that time. But sometimes that's how it works. You can't get all the bounty runes.
No, although...
They thought about going on Zephyr.
Looked like Bok wanted to, but this is still looking okay for Geek Fam. Like, Adroit with the Alchemist want that net worth advantage. They actually don't have it yet. So Geek Fam still has a lot of leeway here. In fact, they do scout Bok out. Raven's playing really far forward. Forces out the Rolling Thunder, but nothing really comes out from it.
Raven's just doing what Raven needs to do. Keep farming on that Terrorblade. He is still ahead of the Arc in terms of net worth, but that gap is closing in very, very quickly from Mac, who has already queued up that Radiance. Definitely not going to be the best timing in the world for an Alchemist, but take what you can get. And Geek Fam, they are ensuring they're trying to take as much map control as possible, and that's really how you shut down an Alp. In fact, Natsumi, top lane, going to get jumped. He does commit the wolf form. Is there going to be a duel from Cuckoo? He will not make it in time. The TP was just way too long, although glimpse back. He did get glimpse back, and with that, the duel will be there. And so that snowball, just giving enough vision for Whiteman to actually get the glimpse off.
Yeah, that's a big kill going the way of Geek Fam. Once more, kind of taking the wind out of Adroit's sails. They're not finding that net worth lead they need to. You're not getting enough space with Natsumi's Lycan. He's managed to take 1 objective and apply light pressure up top, not too much. Geek Fam going to be very happy with the state of the game. 6-6, less than 1k advantage going the way of Geek Fam. That is against an Alc. And that is a very bad state for the Alk. Mac still has a lot of catching up.
Nice shards coming out from Zephyr. Boomy will go up in the air, does go down. Carl also has a regen rune bottled up, so Geek Fam may be very willing to try and go for a team fight soon. It always is nice when you have a regen storm. Mac still suffering here. Be a real shame if he died right now. Like, he's getting very close. I say very close, he's still not that close to that Sacred Relic. Geek Fam are having a look around to see if they can find him, but instead they're going to have to settle for Natsumi. Still a very nice kill if they could get it.
Oh.
Geek Fam, shards, going to give vision, and Snowball of course going to be there. Natsumi will have no way out. Another duel coming. They will secure the kill. The Rolling Thunder will be there from Bok. They want to try and punish for this, but there's only 2 heroes up there for now. In fact, make it 3. The Enchantress is there as well. They're going to be able to claim up Cuckoo. But I think you're still very satisfied if you're Geek Fam. You just slow down the Lycan.
Yeah, you're not finding the best trades. They do get the root off onto Zephyr right as the TP was about to go off, so they should find another trade. But these aren't the biggest priority targets, right? Cuckoo is a bit better. Zephyr is definitely not up there, and in sacrifice of your Lycan and your Alk, not worthwhile.
Yeah, Raven was already there. I didn't realize that Carl would jump down in the storm and pick up the kill as well. Yeah, definitely not worth it at all for Adroit. And like you said before, meanwhile, while all this is happening, Raven's still freely farming. Like, he is still the top of the net worth board. This is a disastrous out game. We're 14 minutes in with no Radiance, not even a Sacred Relic yet. He's still 700 gold off. It's, you know, you start to question how effective the Alk's going to be if he's this far behind.
It's hard for an Alk to bounce back from this kind of deficit, although.
Boomy has friends. Rolling Thunder, not being committed yet, but they get the fortunes in. That'll be enough. Boomy picks up a kill onto Whiteman. Nice shards block from Zephyr, just blocking the stairway. Carl is around there. They could definitely try for a fight if the push comes in. From the side of Adroit. For Carl, he does get a Vortex off. It is going to be onto Bok, but he'll swashbuckle away. By the way, John, Carl is already trying to go for an Aghanim Scepter.
I like that. I like the Ags on Storm. I think it's going to give you a lot more control. It looks like he did shift out to the Soul Booster, so perhaps still aiming for that Bloodstone in the end.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Bloodstone. Yep. Zephyr. Gonna jump in. Boomy will be perfectly fine, and they should be able to actually kill Zephyr. Now, yeah, they'll just leave him be, Zephyr. He'll die. None of his team really care. They'll just let him die in peace.
He's not a big priority target. You tend to see this with Zephyr. He's just thrown out there to give information. That's information that Geek Fam does kind of maximize well. And Adroit's still not going to be too happy with just killing off a Tusk. He's not worth much. You're still not finding that net worth advantage. Mac is now number 2 though. 1,000 gold behind Raven. So you are seeing that bounce back up. You do have the Sacred Relic up on Mac. Still going to be finishing up that Radiance, but shouldn't take too long. Still, I do worry for Adroit. The timings are definitely off. And if Geek Fam keep applying this pressure, then you'll always see this issue coming up for Adroit. And one of the things with the Alk as well, right? He's a gold sink. So you're investing all of your net worth into the Alk. If it doesn't pay off, then you're stuck with a gold sink that's really not doing anything for you.
Well, you've got to ask how much longer, like, this Alchemist can go on like this. We never see this. 16 minutes in, he is still behind, and now Raven, he's gonna find him. Mac, he still doesn't have the Radiance. He can't afford to die like this, but he gets caught out and he does die. Okay, so now it's at least 17 minutes before the Radiance, more than likely 18. This is,
It's like
yeah, it's problematic, John.
the aggression from Geek Fam is the exact counterplay to this kind of draft from Adroit. We expected so much more space coming out from this Lycan. We expected so many more saves from CML. They're just never there when they need to be around Mac. So Mac is just suffering hard for it, and they still have never punished Raven. You know, Terrorblade has weaknesses in the lane that we have seen teams really force out. Raven has had a free time. 1-0, 3 assists, all the farm in the world. Has his Mant style up, is working towards that BKB. Once the BKB is up, you have really no hope of just killing off Raven anymore.
They do go for the Roshan. If Mac's gonna die, they may as well give him a second life. I believe it will probably go, who do you give it to? Like, you don't want to give it to the Lycan because he won't have wolf form after his death. You don't really want to give it to Mac because he's not doing anything yet. But it looks like Mac has freed up the slot, so he is the one taking it. It seems like they're just more denying the Aegis away from Geek Fam.
It does look that way. I think that's what they're trying to go for. They can't really fight in the pit if Geek Fam chose to force it out. So they're just going to be going for it themselves. First, you take a look at Mac, right? After that Radiance, he's going to be going for the BKB next, which should mitigate a lot of that control Geek Fam has. I don't think he's going to be big enough in the Alk to really stand there and fight, especially when you consider what Raven has. Like, that BKB is not going to be stopping the physical damage output of Raven, and it is really high as long as he has his Metamorphosis up. So there are still issues with the timing here. There's still a 1k advantage in Geek Fam. Never something you want to see when you're in Alk. You know, you don't want to be even. You don't want to be behind us when you're running the Alk. You want to be 15k ahead at this point in the game, or at least 5k at 17. You know, that's a reasonable amount for the Alk. We're not there. So Geek Fam is very happy with the state of the game. They've really managed to find every single kill they'd want. They have slowed down the pace of Adroit, and Adroit's just not finding the success they need. Like, the push we're seeing from Natsumi is just not great. He takes 1 tier 1, that's it. There's nothing else on the map they've taken away from Geek Fam.
Okay, well, they're going to get the Roshan. That's good. So Mac's got a second life. That's a positive.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
doesn't do anything in his first life anyway. It's like, okay.
I mean, in
it's gonna
terms of
take longer.
survivability.
Yeah, like, his team has to be around him. That's the key part. Like, every single time he's isolated and alone, for this Aegis to work, you have to have everyone around you.
Oh, Boomy gets jumped on. They just want to take out this Enchantress, though False Promise committed. She's underneath the Static Storm. Whiteman, he will drop. Bok looking for another target, but Carl zips out. They do manage to eventually get that T1 mid tower as well, but Cuckoo, he's thinking about trying to find a jewel. Still doesn't have a Blink Dagger, however. And while they were making that push, the good news is our Radiance is up.
You've got Radiance at last and Mac, so he can farm a bit faster. He can have a little bit more presence in these fights. Not quite ready to just join up on these team fights, but certainly a lot harder to kind of pick off now. But, you know, from those kills before, Carl already had the Bloodstone, so he's built up in that. They clear out the dominated creep as well from the Enchantress. And Geek Fam's still looking pretty steady. Again, you still have a net rate advantage on Raven. You are seeing Max start to rack it up. Geek Fam has to keep playing aggressive. See, that's the one thing as well. We're talking about Adroit being behind, but Geek Fam needs to maintain that aggression. They do smoke up. They're going to try to find some.
Oh, they have Metamorphosis and they have a Mantra on Raven. He's hitting very, very hard. Still at the top of the net worth board, by the way, on that Terrorblade. They're going to run straight into Bok. It's not really the target they'd like, but they'll have to take it, it seems. The Snowball will come out. Bok trying to run. Rolling Thunder won't be there in time. Raven attacking creeps right now. You've got to attack the hero. He does eventually get him. Again, it's not really the target they want, but it does force Mac out of the triangle. So
Yeah,
this is all time he's just not farming.
They deny that area from Adroit, which is still pretty nice, and they might find more if they're not careful.
They just want the bounties, it seems.
A gift from the tempest of battle.
And the Geek Fam have been very good at this, at
Natsu?
denying most of the bounties.
Illusion blown away.
Okay.
He was in wolf form as well, just chased down by the storm. Way more mana than you'd expect with that Bloodstone. I believe he was just farming that top jungle and trying to chip away at that tier 2. Doesn't pay off. And now Pink's coming out onto CML.
Well, he tried to go for the bounty, and they knew he would. Fate's Edict, only gonna delay the inevitable. Clumsy net, he fortune sends it off. But the jewel comes out. They were waiting on Cuckoo.
Told you a storm was
Things get from bad to worse if you are Adroit. Mac even taking the tomb now to hit that level 15 mark.
Ooh.
It's
You
it's
never
never
want
a
to
good
see
sign.
that.
Yeah,
No.
never.
That's how far behind Adroit's playing from. And you look at the scoreboard, sure, Geek Fam, 1k lead, that's not too bad. But it's against an Alk. That might as well be a 10k lead at this point because of how the Alk works. And there's just so much more ground here Adroit has to try to recover. I think they have to play together. You know, they've got to try to find something. They've got to bait in Geek Fam to fight their Alk while they have their Oracle around. And if they can get that done, they might be able to win.
They're going for a smoke. They are going to find Carl. If they can keep him stunned up, it'd be amazing. Cuckoo is trying to run in and press the attack, and he will eventually. Carl, he cannot get the zip off in
Oh.
time. Great kill. Bok trying to chase down Zephyr now. Zephyr again with the nice shards, but they are still going to continue with this chase. Purged up. Fortune's End is going to be there. Zephyr still running away, but they get the clumsy net off still. Raven is coming in. Now he does have a BKB available. Raven, he doesn't have meta, but they've got the wolf stuck in that static storm. Now they will continue going onto CML, though CML will be perfectly fine as Raven's going to be the one in trouble. He needs to get out, but they do end up killing off Natsumi. Why is Mac here?
Dire's middle
I believe Mac
I'm-
probably should be farming somewhere right now.
I'm not sure why he decided to join in right after Natsumi dies. Just a lot that, well, you know, overall, Adroit does kind of win out in that fight. They only drop Natsumi. They do manage to find a Storm. They do manage to find 2 supports. They do earn a little bit of gold back. That is definitely time where Natsumi should just be farming up. I believe he is flying out his BKB. So there is some presence here from the Alk now. He can stand in the fight. He doesn't need to worry about any of those tools. The Aegis does expire in the end. But there's a smoke from Geek Fam.
Oh, this is perfect timing from Geek Fam. They knew the Aegis was going to expire, and they do spot out Mac. The glimpse
Oh.
is there. He needs to pop the BKB, and he
Oh,
does.
no.
That's a 10-second charge gone. Mac is having one of the roughest games I've ever seen. Like, it's not exactly his fault, right? He's just playing his hero the way it's meant to be played.
Radiant's top tower is under
But-
attack.
They are getting everything out of this Alchemist.
Are fortified.
Yeah, they definitely are. They've slowed down Mac to the point where he's just so far. I say he's so far behind. Again, he's 1k behind, but that's an Alk. We see this every single time. When an Alk is 1k behind, it might as well be 10. And Geek Fam is really shutting down the map. They are playing quite well. They have gotten a lot more control out. They have given so much space to Raven to get so big that he is definitely giving it back. He's working towards that Scotty, and with the added effects of the Scotty, you're losing a lot of that regen on the Alk once that's up. And it will be up soon. Like, Raven's farming pace is pretty darn good.
You'd almost love to see someone get the Vessel as well, just to really give it to the Alchemist. Like, Scotty
Yeah.
plus Vessel, that would be really
Is
devastating.
under attack.
They aren't doing that, though. Like, Zephyr is going to go for the Vladimir's offering.
Radiant's
is
middle
also
tower
pretty
is under
nice.
attack.
Perhaps they just don't feel like they need the Vessel. Perhaps it's just pointless. Like, we can
I
take
mean,
care of Mac without it.
They have been taking care of Mac without it anyway. So I can see the logic in just kind of letting that be. There is a smoke from Adroit. They might be in a good position here. Maybe?
Maybe. They do get up the high ground. Cuckoo gonna get swashbuckled. The glimpse on Bok, but he got the Rolling Thunder off. Now to chase and find somebody, and Raven would be the best target possible. But, no, they back out. Cuckoo now, he's going to chase forward. He wants to find somebody to pick off. He doesn't have a blink, but you could really depend on Zephyr here to get the shards off. As he sees Mac, he won't get the shards he wants. Carl's just going to go ahead and take a dominated creep and get himself 200 gold. And again,
What did we just watch?
Over here.
Was this like, did everyone just decide to go for a short marathon? Just a bit of a
Carl
jog?
has found Boomy, again trying to go after a bounty rune. Glimpse back from Wyman. It's very hard to kill off Boomy with Untouchable.
It's a process.
Carl does not give up.
Oh,
Oh, he mechs up. Carl does get it eventually. That's why you never give up, kids. Keep chasing.
It takes a while. They find a kill. Adroit with a wasted smoke, wasted shapeshift, are going to have to find a different way to find those kills in the map. Alright, this is going to mean that an objective is probably going to be taken here by Geek Fam.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, Raven taking a tier 2 back. Trying to go after an AC. Let's have a nice orb of destruction.
Is under attack.
It's always good. Top lane also being pushed in by Natsumi. He's applying pressure.
Is under attack.
He won't be able to finish off the tier 2 tower, but it should be denied anyway. It's going regardless. You would have liked the gold. Raven, he won't even deny it yet. He'll just leave it.
Just might as well have that up there, right? Like, I don't think, well, you know, it's always nice to get the deny off, but he'll probably come back for it. There's not much control from Adroit, so it's very risky for them to get into that area of the map. And Geek Fam now with a 3k lead. It just feels like they have everything they want. Like, Adroit are still constantly pouring in all their resources towards Mac. So they are still trying to make this Alchemist work. I'm not sure at what point that really shouldn't be the case anymore. Like, he's just way too far behind as an Alchemist. This is probably the time where you try to maybe redistribute that farm, maybe give Natsumi a lot more to play with, and then he might be able to take these objectives a lot safer.
But if you don't invest in the Alch, what do you invest in? Like, Natsumi is great and all, but even the Lycan drops off.
Yeah, it's just a challenging situation all around for Adroit. You've got the Scatty up now and Raven as well, so if he does join these fights and Max around, even Lycan, right? Like, he has pretty good regen coming in. That's not going to be there with a Scotty up.
Oh, they're popping Wolf form. Raven, he has the Scotty right now. They're going to go after the Disruptor. It's a nice support pickoff, and they do take it. Natsumi, going to continue chasing for more. They need everything they can get, but this is very risky to go for as Zephyr does avoid the rolling boulder, and Carl jumps in. I think he wanted that regen room, but this could be disastrous. He does get away before the stun hits. Boomy now being targeted by Raven. I think you got to target someone else now, Raven. He'll go after Mac. Meanwhile, Natsumi does get jeweled up during the false promise. This should confirm the kill, but they do disarm the LC. Still Natsumi definitely should just die, and does. The chase goes way too far. And Raven will get started on the Roshan with that meta. Disruptor will be back up in about a second. It feels like you have to fight this, but I don't know if you can. Carl will jump in, get stunned, but it lasts literally no time. And, well, now you have Whiteman there with Static Storm still.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Mac throwing these acid sprays are slowing him down. I think it's speeding up the Roche.
Yeah, Roshan gonna go down. They do also find Zephyr at least, who did snowball in, but now they do go after Bok on the Pangolier. Static Storm doesn't really connect on anything. Meanwhile, Boomy does find 2 kills. This looks okay for the side of Adroit. They also get the Aegis deny. There's no meta on the TB, so this could be dangerous for Raven as he can't really help his team out. He'll try to manfight now with the Sunder. Going back onto Mac. Vortex there. Mac still taking a lot of damage. Now the Fate's Edict will not allow Raven to attack. He needs to get out. He'll pop his BKB and man up. Mac throws a stun, but he does go down. Now they chase for more. Jewel is back up by Cuckoo. Buyback comes out from the Oracle. CML, not sure if the buyback was really worthwhile. I guess he did have false promise, so maybe they find Cuckoo. Cuckoo's just very tanky though. Clumsy Net gonna be there. Still trying to run. Does end up going down. Zephyr snowballs in. They really want to stop them from getting these bounty runes, it seems, and they get him regardless. Zephyr gonna give another kill away unless Carl helps out. He does pop his rune and tries to go in with the bottle. He does eventually get CMO. That's a dieback on the Oracle. Now Bok gonna be chased down and does get glimpsed back. And it's just a messy team fight overall, but it's working out in the favor of Geek Fam. In fact, Boomy, look at Carl, he just mans up. Hit me.
I love this part.
Radiant's
Oh
top
man,
tower is under
Geek
attack.
fam just starting to tease Adroit a bit here. As they do maintain that lead, they did
Radiant's top
find everything they want. They've got all the kills they needed. They forced the buybacks out. They take that tier 2 objective now. No outer towers left for Adroit. Geek fam are just in control. They have been in control from very early on. Adroit, this investment in the Alk not paying off. We expected so much more from Alk Oracle, from the potential of just staying alive and just laying on the damage. They haven't been able to do so. And I don't know if there's any way back. Like, if Mac can actually recovery farm, then there is potential there. It's just that he's not recovery farming fast enough. He's just so far behind that Terrorblade consistently. I don't think Mac has ever been number 1 in the net worth board in the entirety of this game on an Alchemist.
But he's got an AC now, John.
I love this part.
It's probably not going to change the game very much, but he's got it. Bonk.
It's something.
It is something. Bonk, Rolling Thunders, rolls back home. Geek fam, continue to farm up. Raven still at the top of the net worth board by a mile, and he will have an MKB up soon.
Oh,
Things
boy.
are getting a little bit scarier. And this is why you remember Raven as that Terrorblade player. He knows his hero like the back of his hand. And looks like after
hasn't
this
died.
age... No, he hasn't. He's 4-0 with 7 assists.
Just no punishment from Adroit. Like, again, the laning phase is when you do bully that out. They just don't. Raven gets way too much. I believe he actually has that MKB. There you
Yeah.
go. MKB's up. Butterfly's coming up
Are
next.
scanning.
Can you even match up with what this guy has? I really don't reckon that they can. Mac is keeping
I-
pace, but
I
Yeah.
didn't realize this is what Alchemist looks like, John. It must be a new cosmetic for Alchemist.
Radiant
He
are
looks pretty
scanning.
cool. Where do we buy it?
which
I like
one?
Dire's top
The one that
tower
looks like
is being
Terrorblade,
denied.
John.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. If only he had Terrorblade's farm as well.
True. They're gonna commit a lot here to try and go into Zephyr. So Zephyr forces a Rolling Thunder, forces a Wolf form, probably will die as he doesn't have Snowball. He is still surviving, however. They do finally get him, but in the meantime, CML's lost his life and they're going
Oh,
after Mac. Mac needs help. His team refused to help him. It was like Carl last game on the Pugna. They're just leaving him behind.
And this is going to be a very straightforward high ground push. Mac is forced to buy back. I don't know if you pull back as Geek Fam. They still have Metamorphosis out.
Yeah, why would you? You've got BKB as well. 9-second charge still on Raven. He hasn't found the necessity to use it yet. Oh, the Orchid coming out from Carl. Silences up, so Alk stuns himself. That's a dieback. It's an old trick, and Carl gives him the tip.
Has fallen.
Zephyr will give the tip back to Carl. I mean, that's a revenge tip right there from Carl, of course. And this game, I mean, it's over, right? Like, how do you come back from this?
It's a dieback on Mac. He's their highest net worth. The next thing in line is the Lycan at 13k. That's nothing.
Nope.
34 minutes in.
He tries his best to get a Scythe the Vice up.
Radiant's bottom barracks are
I don't even know if that would be enough. Like, you've still got so much to worry about. It's not Raven, it's Carl, it's Cuckoo, it's Zephyr's too hard to kill. Now, what a Vortex coming out. That's the Aghanim Scepter upgrade onto 3, and they just destroy them. Cuckoo gets a jewel off. Boomy will die one more time, I believe. In fact, they don't win the jewel, but the Warrior's Punch will get the job done. The GG has been called. And Geek Fam, they weren't the favorites before all this started. They do pull off the victory, and they will be versing Boom Esports tomorrow in the lower bracket round 2.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty interesting rematch between the two. Of course, Boom was the one that did win out and forced Geek Fam into the lower bracket, so that's a bit of a grudge match for them. But Adroit just kind of losing so much ground in this game, right? Like they go with this draft that we think on paper should be high priority. The Oracle Alk has worked out for a lot of teams before. They don't manage to get it off. Geek Fam with the early aggression, with so many heroes down mid, just keeping Mac in his place. Lots of great boards in jungle. Lots of constant pressure onto Mac, just never allowing him to really get his space, and it fell apart. Like they were constantly investing in an alchemist that was a 1k behind.
Yeah, it was a rough game. I honestly, when we were looking at the drafting phase, John, we just thought for sure that this game, like just based on Adroit's draft, should have been Adroit's game, right? Like Alchemist is still such a powerful pick in this current meta. In fact, how rude of me, John. Let me bring the cams back up. I know how you like looking at yourself. Bring those back up for me 1 second, sir. There we go. So we thought, based on the draft, we thought it would be an outright Adroit win based on the fact they had the Lycan, they had the Alchemist, they looked pretty good. We commented, Geek Fam, they weren't really slowing down Mac too much, but then around the 5-minute mark, Zephyr started making the rotations mid, started making it very hellish for him to try and farm at all, just stood there in the mid lane looking at him the whole time, just taunting.
Yeah.
Geek Fam just took over in the end. Like, Adroit, they weren't really focusing on protecting the Alchemist. It was really strange, right? Like, they just didn't protect him.
No, they would send CML 1 minute, and then after a while he'd pull back, then he'd come back in. But the pressure from Geek Fam was consistent. I like seeing that coming out from them. And while they were applying that pressure, of course, they gave so much space to Raven at the same time. So all that map pressure just gave Raven free farm on the Terrorblade, which we know he's a master of.
And that is the second time in 2 days the Twitter curse has come alive. Adroit said they would get revenge for RR. Adroit do not make it to verse Boom. And it's very unfortunate for them because they were looking pretty good throughout the group stages. Still, congratulations to Geek Fam. John, no interview. They probably a little bit tired after the that best of 3 series. Fair enough. It's dinner time, I'm sure, for them as well, as you would say. Have you got any final words, John? Because I believe this is our last day of the Pro Series, though I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. So have you got any final words before we do head off?
You know, hopefully everyone has had fun. The games have been pretty fantastic for Southeast Asia, of course. NA is having a great time as well. If you did enjoy the cast, feel free to follow me and Mike. We're at Twitter, at johnxfire, at MLP Dota. And if you have Facebook, I'm on Facebook as well, johnxfire.gaming. Otherwise, there are more games coming up tomorrow. We're just not sure whether we'll be here, but I'm sure the casters here will be fantastic as well. And there's still so many good games, so you better make sure to follow the channel and come back for those.
By the way, those games that are on tomorrow, it'll be, I believe, Fnatic vs TNC are going to be the first series, so that is the upper bracket finals. Straight after that, we are going to see Boom Esports up against Geek Fam in the lower bracket round of 2. And that will be it for tomorrow. And the next day is when we'll see the lower bracket finals and the grand finals. But it is MLP Dota and johnxfire. We'll hopefully see you next time for some more great SEA Dota. See you then.